Forces of chaos fill me with power. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Once again, it is time for chaos training. And today was pretty much just a bicep day, but I also did my 5 sets of plate pullovers also, which again, I'm going to continue to do more and more of. So for biceps, I went ahead and did 15 sets. Everything was in that 10 to 20 rep range. So with these, we hit around 12 or 13 reps, and then we pretty much reached failure. Reached failure right about 12 to 13 reps with this. So I started with the easy bar, mainly because, again, I'm getting a fair amount of different supine work and stuff in with the chins, the supine grip rows and everything. So a little bit of the easy bar with the close grip isn't a bad thing. Although I may add the straight bar back in here shortly. But I supersetted the first 5 sets of curls today with the pullover. So what are we doing with this? What I've said a number of times, something I really want to do is continue to work that shoulder mobility. Doing these allowed me to be able to reach my arms over my head at all. Again, because I had a period of time to where I couldn't even do that. I could not even pick my arm up and reach up and touch something above my head. Like even put stuff in a cabinet or anything, due to that scar tissue that's accumulated from the overuse issue I had from those pull-ups, right, and chin-ups. But I rehabbed it quite some time back, and pullovers were the number one exercise for that. Well, and I've been doing pullovers lately. I've just been trying to go really heavy instead of focusing on the deep stretch. And so now I want to come in and just take a 45-pound plate, do hard sets of 20, and work on getting the range of motion as deep as I can and try to pause more and more on the reps. So again, the idea here is what? To improve that range of motion. Plus, we have to look at the long hand involvement of the tricep. I need bigger arms. Arms in general are a priority. I get a lot of tricep work on my chest and tricep day, but the pullovers will make sure that long head gets worked. And the other benefit I'm getting, all that long head work, all the chest work, all that other stuff, is the fact that if I can increase that range of motion, I do feel like that is going to be extremely helpful, in the ability to build my triceps. So that's one of the things that I have to look at with one reason maybe my triceps aren't as big as they need to be. I don't have that range of motion in the shoulders that I need to really get the best possible long head recruitment. So I feel like the pullovers, if I focus on them, and yes, guys, when you see me pause on some of them, that is 100% of my range of motion. I've had to build to that, but how do we increase that? Well, by the weighted stretching. And so if I come in and I have multiple workouts every week where I literally do 100 reps stretched against that, right? Stretched against that, that will hopefully improve it over time, because that's how we develop that sort of range of motion and flexibility and mobility, is by the loaded weight against the terminal ends of that range of motion. A little minor static stretching does nothing. Anyone who's a lifter already knows this. You could static stretch them all day long with just minor static stretches, and you won't even add an inch to your range of motion unless you're a completely untrained person. Yeah, a completely untrained person. So, the idea here is that loaded stretching into that stretch position, that Lincoln position, should hopefully over time, if I just stay consistent with it long enough, should continually improve that range of motion, because it all crackles and stuff. The first set, I get a lot of crackling and popping in there, which again indicates that we've got some calcification and stuff in there that has to be kind of broken up a little bit, and then everything kind of pops into place. So the same thing when I incline bench and stuff, I get a bunch of crackling and popping. Even if I've done flat benching first, my first real set of incline bench, usually I get a bunch of snap, crackle, and pop like Rice Krispies. Then stuff all pops into place. So the idea is to continue to work those ranges of motion and get that to do what I need it to do. So I'm killing multiple birds with one stone here. So improving that range of motion and continuing to get pectoral and tricep and all this stuff throughout the week. So even though most of my stuff is body part split, that's going to be hit a little more. Just like I have 2 arm days. But I did 3 sets of the easy bars, and then I went over to, my dumbbell curls. So we'll talk briefly about that. So the dumbbell curls, I'm trying to work all 3 functions of the bicep. So again, because my arms need the work, I really am trying to think in terms of working all of these functions. And I do think, because again, I've added some carbs back in today. I'm gonna have some rice here in a bit. I'm hoping all this training volume and then the extra carbs now, since I haven't really been eating carbs, my arms may start pumping right back up now that we're getting all this training volume for them, and then we'll see how it goes. Be curious to see what happens. But yeah, I've noticed even the lower carbs, it is not really helping with the fluid retention around the waist at all the way it used to. So again, I just need to keep sodium balance good, potassium high, and eat cleaner carbs that do not bloat my GI tract. Because that's been the main thing for me too, is that anytime I'm holding water in my GI tract, the loose skin and stuff just seems to be worse. Of course, it's cold outside too, so that makes it worse also. So once it warms up, it gets a little tighter. But so again, a couple more sets of pullovers in here. So I did 5 sets of 20 on those in between. So it didn't really add time because I just did all these back to back. I can just immediately go to the next curl. So doing the pullovers in the amount of time I would have normally just taken a break. Because my breaks were pretty short on all the curling anyways, 2 minutes tops at the most. So with the curls though, so what are we doing there? So the dumbbell curls, we start in a hammer position, right? Start in a hammer position because the supination of the wrist is one of the minor functions of the bicep. We could argue all day long about as to whether that causes muscle growth. That has always been a point of contention. People do point out it's a function of the bicep, but it may not contribute significantly to muscle growth, but at least we're working it. But then we're definitely with the dumbbells, one of the perks of the dumbbell, we don't have to worry about elbow position to get our lockout. In other words, usually you've got to get the arms further out in front of you with any sort of bar to get the lockout at the bottom. With dumbbells, we don't have to do that because they can freely move, and then the same thing, we can just bring them up towards the face for that other function. So obviously we have the flexion of the elbow. That's the main function of the bicep. And hopefully everyone understands that. But these other two minor things are going to be that supination. So again, the palms twisting upward and that extension of the shoulder. So the long head of the bicep is responsible. It's a primary mover for the first 30 degrees that your shoulders move forward. Okay, the first 30 degrees they move forward away from a perfectly downright, right, at 180 degrees, right? From that position, the first 30 degrees, and if you look at human anatomy and physiology, the long head of the bicep, which is just one of the two heads, is involved. And if you look at where they attach into the shoulder, it makes sense, right? It makes perfect sense as to why that is. So, sorry, got distracted there. Let me keep going. So again, the last of the pullovers there, and trying to pause as I get more and more as I get near the very end. Some of the last reps, I want them to be a nice long couple second pause. So again, got a great chest and tricep pump doing these, by the way, because I did them all as the supersets and the reps are high. So again, hoping we'll get some decent additional growth stimulus out of that. But again, this was mostly a bicep workout. But again, those 5 sets do count. And I don't know how many workouts I'm going to do them every week. Maybe 3, maybe 4. We'll see how we feel on back days. That almost might be overkill because 5 sets of these 3 times a week already would be a lot. All right. But again, for the dumbbell curls, the idea, we're working all these functions of the bicep concurrently. But again, we're trying to work all the different angles. So yes, I do 5 different types of curls today. I only do 2 types of curls on the back and bicep day. Why? So I stick to these first two big ones. Well, because we're doing chin-ups, we're doing rows of all these different angles, we're getting a decent amount of bicep work. So I feel like just coming in and hitting a couple of the basic good lifts like this works on that day. But the bicep specific day, I want to make sure that I fully work every possible angle of the biceps. So we also want to make sure we get those good lengthened position movements. So I do an incline curl and a preacher curl, which are both lengthened position, but they're very opposites in terms of shoulder position. And it might seem like a minor point, but again, if we're going to try to get every single last muscle fiber in the bicep, we need to be doing a lot of these sets to failure or close to failure, we need to be working different angles. And I get it, the bicep is not a complicated muscle, but like every other muscle, you're always going to have muscle fibers that are involved in certain things. And so I'm trying to make sure that I work the bicep through its entirety, just like the tricep and stuff also. All right. And all the other muscles, like I do 4 different lat exercises on my back day. I mean, we do 3 different things for quads on the leg day. Because again, we're trying to work all these possible angles. We need to make sure that we work all of them. Especially for someone like me whose biceps have been undertrained, underdeveloped, because I didn't train them enough earlier on, and I have this massive back and legs, from all the strength training and power training. Getting them caught up, will mean taking them that far, like really, really pushing every different angle, making sure I fully get every last possible muscle fiber recruited in my biceps. Okay, again, with the total weekly volumes, with the frequency of it, and then the intensity of the sets. And so again, a lot of these sets are, the majority of them are being taken to momentary muscle failure, and the ones that aren't are within a rep of it. So again, bicep volume is very high, and the breaks are short, so even though I'm not using a lot of weight, it's like the pump is intense, and we are taking sets to failure. And we should be fine there, even if we're forced to use a lighter weight because of it, just due to the sheer volume of hard, challenging sets. So I did 3 sets of the incline curls, and we did preacher curls. I managed to get, about 14 to 15 on all these. I think maybe the last set might have been 13 or 14 that I hit muscle failure and just couldn't go any further. So again, the incline curls ended up being right around 10 or so with that weight, even though the other stuff was 12 to 13. These ended up being, up around 14, 15 reps, and then reaching failure definitely for sure on the last set, right? Because I tried to do a rep that I just couldn't get out of the bottom. But again, so the reps are getting a little bit higher here as we go, and that's okay. Because again, preacher curls is one of these exercises where you can get hurt really easily by trying to cheat or use too much weight. Bicep tears are absurdly common. I know people personally who have gotten bicep tears on preacher curls. So again, it's one of those where it's like, look, I've only got 50 pounds on the bar, and I'm doing 15 reps. That's okay. Do it strict. Don't lay back and cheat, and just get the work done. And then, of course, I finished up with, after all that, some band curls to failure. I'm almost tired of talking, so I may just finish up the talking and let you guys watch it. But then I did 3 sets of the band curls to failure in around the 20 or just over rep range. I might have got a couple more reps here or there. So again, with those, it's the other extreme. We get a little bit of an overspeed eccentric from it, even when trying to control them. And then the idea we get into a shortened position where we have an extreme contraction at the peak on the band curls. So again, we are making sure we're getting all the lengthened position, making sure we're getting an intense contraction on the shortened position or contracted spot, working every function of the bicep. So again, just systematically working everything, making sure those arms are being hit and fatigued, and every possible muscle fiber is being stimulated. Because again, arms need to come up. So you guys will see that coming up here, but kind of tired of talking, so I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.